is my baby.
I'm Dana Denha.
And I am Melissa Bondi, and this is Adventures in Parenthood, where we take a ride on the roller coaster that we call parenting.
Being able to protect yourself and your family is power. We've all been in situations that can make you feel vulnerable, and having kids in tow can make that vulnerability compound. Melissa, have you ever felt like you were in an uncomfortable situation with or without Bryn? But I personally have been in both, and it's scarier when you have a kid with you.
Absolutely, I have, and it's shifted over the years, right? Our girls are a little bit older now, so it's shifted from, kids and babies in the cart to walking around a store. Mine's mostly, in the public arenas where we're, at a store versus a big event. Like I met our, guest that we're going to speak with at a large, you know, venue. So yeah, I definitely have gotten am I being too lax? Can she walk over here? Who's watching? Is someone looking at us? And it's weird. It goes in phases for me. Is someone, whether we're at a store or, like I said, or somewhere where there's just a lot of people.
Like a convention or something, a concert, something where it's just like a big crowd and you're worried about losing or something like that.
Yeah, the losing or someone taking, or yeah, I think we all have had those thoughts of, are we going to hear it, see it? You turn around and they're not there.
No one
Ah,
thinks about kidnapping more than a mother. I mean, you
no,
always
it's the
think someone's going to
worst.
kidnap your kids or take them and sexually assault them or do something and then they come back or it's just like you worry so much more about things that you never thought you'd worry about prior. You know,
Yeah.
this past 4th of July, we went to go shoot fireworks at our local park. And I had my baby with me, and it was time. He needed to go to bed. But like my husband and my daughter were staying there, so I had to walk back home alone, and it was pitch
Mm,
black outside.
mm.
He was in like one of those like push cart sort of wagon cars, and I started like my mind just went crazy, and I started
Yeah.
freaking out about. And then there was a car behind me, and they were
Mm.
sort of slow. And then I'm like, oh my God, what do I do? Do I run in someone's backyard? Do I take the baby out of this thing and grab him? Like, I'm just like any possible
Yeah.
scenario. And I can't stop thinking about it. And like with Kiki, I feel a little bit better about it because she's bigger and like she'd be harder to take or like
Mm.
deal with or whatever. But agreed. Now that she's an 8-year-old, she does like we'll go to a store and she'll be like, can I go to the bathroom alone?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
the bathroom's really far from here right now. I don't know if I want you to go to the bathroom. But then I'm like, you know what? She's
Right.
an 8-year-old. I think my mom let me go to the bathroom alone when I was 8.
Sure.
So then I'm like, don't talk to anybody. Don't look at anybody. Do your business and get back to me as quick as possible. You know what I mean? Like just like I don't know because like at some point you do have to let go a little bit. They're getting older. They want their independence. They don't want to be right next to you everywhere you are.
Yeah, Dana, you hit the nail on the head right there because that's it. It's finding the balance or how do we let the strings go a little bit more? Like, where is that balance of letting them be independent versus worrying about their safety because they're still children at the end of the day?
Well,
And that's what,
and our next guest is actually going to help us with this because she teaches courses and they are self-defense, but they're not necessarily about always, being strong. It's just about being confident and being able to protect yourself.
Mhm.
Self-defense is a skill that helps gain confidence and security while also keeping yourself and loved ones safe. Joining us is Carrie Conrad, founder and instructor with Beating Disaster. Welcome to the show, Carrie.
Thanks so much for having me, Dana.
Well, I'd like to know a little bit more about you and how you ended up on the self-defense route and then starting a business.
It was all an accident, and it started with my parents forcing me to take martial arts because they were like adamant I was not going to have the experiences that they had. So I was force fed. It was fun at first, and then I didn't like it anymore. No one cared. No one cared. And so I stuck with it. I was told I couldn't date till I had a black belt, and I got a black belt in record time. And that was that was like the foundation. But then it was really life experience and finding out that karate is fantastic. It's not always a self-defense solution that's useful for women. So that's where the journey really began. And I started teaching because I really didn't have much of a choice. I became a single mom overnight and I was responsible for all the bills and I couldn't be doing my passion if I wasn't getting paid for it. So I had to start getting paid for what I was always doing for free because I just couldn't afford to give my time. I just couldn't afford to do it, you know?
So then talk about how this karate training sort of parlayed into self-defense.
I had an unfortunate event where I needed to use what I learned. And I found out that it doesn't work on people who are under the influence of drugs or alcohol.
Mm.
So don't get me wrong, like I was able to be safe because I had a plethora of skills, but it became very clear that if you take a 2-hour self-defense class and you learn some punching and kicking and you think that that's going to hold up in a situation, you need to have more in your tool belt. So, the stark, ugly fact is that quite often we're victimized by people who are under the influence of drugs or alcohol. So it's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we'd all have been in these situations where we've seen someone under some sort of substance abuse situation, and they do have like a superhuman strength to them in those scenarios.
Even adrenaline is enough, which is adrenaline's enough. Adrenaline is enough that pain doesn't work. So pain isn't something that we can rely on to keep us safe. And then later on, I found more importantly, pain isn't something we're willing to inflict on the types of people who are hurting us. Because the people who actually do most harm to women and children are people we know by their first name. So while a punch to the throat is pretty effective, people just aren't willing to do that on their pastor or on their doctor or on, their best friend's drunk husband.
Yeah, that could make for definitely for an uncomfortable situation in so many levels. Um, Carrie, do you also parlay this into like martial arts in general, like the different types of martial arts aside from just karate? Like, encouraging us, moms or parents to learn other types of self-defense.
So the type of martial arts that I learned, it's called scientific dirty fighting. And it's like not bad, like compared to what's out there. There's a lot of stuff that's based on tradition. The art that I learned is open to be challenged and it's updated as needed as it's proven to need to be updated. So I really did start in a good place. It's just the fact that fighting is not an appropriate tool for a lot of where harm comes from. So yes, there are arts that are more effective than others. Yes, there are arts that are more realistic than others. If you go to the Beating Disaster website, beatingdisaster.com, there is a freebie and it's a self-defense guide and it's the pros and cons of the different types of arts that are out there or anything else that's offered as self-defense. So the pros and cons specifically for women and children, because what men need and what women and children need are not the same. So,
So this is the e-guide when you go on the website and it's like, here, you want an e-booklet to learn more about self-defense, and this is like the information that you get from it.
yep. So, and the purpose of that is because there's value to be found everywhere. And there's also missing information pretty much everywhere. So, like I said, what I learned was great. It's effective, it's simple, it's to the point, that's awesome, but under the influence of drugs or alcohol, you gotta try a few things. You gotta keep going. So, but that's not the only thing that people take for self-defense. People do pepper spray and weapons and all of that. So again, this is specifically for women and children because I found as a woman in my field, again, martial arts was just the precursor. That's not even my qualifications.
Mm.
Don't get me, like I still teach karate today. I love teaching karate, especially kids. Kids are such a good time. But I tell people the least valuable thing I have to offer is martial arts. And it's not that it's bad, it's just that women and children need different skills in order to protect themselves in today's world.
So when you talk about beating disaster, it's really it is aimed then towards the women and children to feel safety. So what are you doing? What are these classes that are being offered that can give you your power back? Because essentially, I mean, you're giving me scenarios where like, certain skills might work, or you just got to go free for all and try the best you can to just protect yourself. And if you don't have any training.
Well, this could go, to answer this, it can go a lot of ways, and please reel me in if I get like too far on a tangent. Um, so if you hit that free for all, like you talked about, awesome. That's awesome. We are way more capable than we realize. Like, really, that's a lot of what I do is validating and showing women and children and proving to themselves the power that they have. Because when you are introduced to the power that you have, I don't give it to you, you have it. When we do that, you hold yourself differently, you carry yourself differently. When you are a person who values yourself, you are more likely and willing to set and uphold boundaries. There are things that we can do to prevent harm. So most of the time you go to a self-defense class, they're going to teach you punching and kicking, and they're going to say, yeah, you just beat up the padded guy. Good for you. And that's fantastic. There, like I said, there's value to be found everywhere. Don't not take a self-defense class. Take 5, take a bunch of them, take more, because I promise different instructors bring different things to the table. What I want to give people is the ability to decipher what is useful and what is not, so that you're not putting all your eggs in a basket that's useless. Because you take that self-defense class, you don't know whether or not what you've learned works. You just feel better because you felt unprepared and now you invested in it and you feel good now. So you don't know. You don't know if it's going to work or not work unless you have a terrible life experience. And then it's like, let's not wait until something bad happens. Let's prevent. And that's why this is all about prevention, protection, and defense. Yes. So what I teach that is different are skills that you can use on your pastor. You want to apologize? Apologize. You don't want to apologize? Don't apologize. That's none of my business. My business is to make sure that you have tools that you're willing to use and tools that work.
So it's funny you said that, well, about the empowerment, because long time ago I did a story and I participated in a self-defense class for women. It was a women's self-defense class. And I'm picturing you out, and I know we met at a public event, but just the confidence I feel like that you hold when you're just out and about. Like I can just tell, your aura, like you're just a confident woman. But I can tell you, thinking back when I took the self-defense class, it was a series of 5 maybe, and just around there. And I remember feeling so good about myself afterwards. Just I had this different sense of accomplishment and confidence. And I was young, I was a lot younger. So, but I can sense that. So I get the feeling that, with with training with you, that women would most likely walk away with the same feeling. I can tell that, you have that passion in what you're talking about, and it just makes so much sense. But you're right. Until you're in the situation, gosh, you don't know what you've learned until, unfortunately, you have to use it. So that's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just what it is. I just try to do my best with what I have to work with, because this is not a conversation that people like to have. When people talk about self-defense, they say the same things. Oh, I don't need it because,
Mm.
I'm good because I took a class 10 years ago. Oh, I have a weapon. And people don't realize that each tool that you have is only good in this many circumstances. How many circumstances are you worried about? Because if you're worried about this many, you're prepared for this many. So what are you going to do about the rest of them? It's not a one size fits all. There's different tools for different jobs. So you need to know. Again, the most important thing to me, though, is that women know you're more likely, if you haven't already, because you probably have, you're more likely going to be victimized by people you know by their first name.
Yeah,
First, your family might love them. Your family might love them, or they're in a position of authority, or you have to choose. Do you want your grades, or do you want to be safe? Do you want your
Mm.
job, or do you want to be safe? Do you want security, or do you want to be safe? I want to make sure that we don't have to choose between one or the other. I want you to have it all. You deserve it all. Let me help you have skills and tools so you can have it all.
So a big part of self-defense is really finding your voice and being able to stick up for the people yourself and the people that you care about, like your kids and your family and stuff.
I specifically help moms with that because I ended up so I taught self-defense hands-on in-person training for over a decade. I learned a ton and I ended up developing stuff that was missing. Moms needed to know how to defend themselves against their own kids, unfortunately. Today's a
Mm.
wild world. We just have the world is what it is. We can only do what we can do, and the system is not going to be fixed immediately. While changes are made slowly, like we need to be safe now. And that's what I've had the privilege of helping moms with. So, bodyguard training for moms, but most importantly, like I said, I like to live in that prevention. And you said that's your voice. What I found is women, we just aren't willing to learn these things for us. We're just not. We're just not. We mean to, we plan on it, we want to, but we just don't.
That's, yeah, every mom. We're
You
like, it's on the to-do list. We're going to get to it. It's going to happen. But what you're saying is we need to expedite this because it's important.
Which is why I target moms
Hmm.
because I'm willing to do it for my kid. I had trauma, I had issues, and this is with a karate background. This is with the ability to fight. I'm a fighter. But there's a difference between cockiness and confidence. And
Right.
there's a journey to go from cocky to confident. And that's what I have the privilege of helping a lot of moms with. Because if you're ready to throw down, you're probably like torching really good relationships. Not to say that every relationship is worth saving, but we have this like mama bear, and we think that means just carnage. It doesn't have to be carnage. You can be a mama bear and be graceful. You can be a mama bear and be quiet. You can be a mama bear and be gentle. You can have that. Like, I really want women to see how feminine energy is such a superpower. It is such a it is power. It is strength. Don't get me wrong. I'll teach people how to mess things up too. There's a time and place. But like we started off with, I really don't need to teach a mom how to mess somebody up. I do and I will. But there's something inside of us, mess with my kid. Do you know what I mean? There's
Right.
We're actually going to take a quick 60-second break and we're going to be back with more from Carrie. We're back with Carrie Conrad with Beating Disaster. And Carrie was talking about the different ways to sort of build your confidence and not cockiness, which I can totally agree with. Because if I see someone that's cocky, I don't think they're confident. I think they're hiding something, honestly. But I was thinking about this situation where it's like not even you were mentioning like it's people you know, or like it could be a stranger, but a lot of times it is people you know. But also, like I had a scenario where someone's dog got loose and my daughter was like 30 feet away from me and this dog was about to attack my daughter when she was like a 3-year-old. And I used my voice to get this dog out of here. I screamed at the top of my lungs, scared the crap out of the dog. And then he tried to do it again. And I screamed again. And then he knew that I was going to mean business. And so, like, yeah, that stuff does work for certain scenarios, for sure. And one of the things I noticed on your website is when you're like looking through, because this is really something, if you want to take these self-defense classes with Beating Disaster, it's really good to like look at this website and see how it goes and how the different offerings and stuff. But one of the things I noticed is that it says to pick your instructor. So is that something that like you do a one-on-one? Why do you pick your own instructor? A lot of times when you take a class, you're stuck with the person you're stuck with.
Um, so I work with a lot of people who have trauma.
Hmm.
Some people have trauma working with women, and some people are uncomfortable working with men. So
Hmm.
you you can specify, would you like a male or female instructor? Because if you that's that's another thing is that so we have trauma, we go to take a self-defense class, we have PTSD, and they give you all these scary statistics, and then you're shut down, and what do you learn? You're like
Mhm.
you're shut down.
Yeah.
So we make sure to do everything in our power to make sure that this is an empowering, positive, supportive, respectful experience. So you will be asked, would you like a male or female instructor? That instructor, when working with you, will say, I'd like to show you this. Do you mind if I move your elbow? Like you will get that type of respectful. It's not found in my industry. It's just not, we got like military and police and those aren't bad backgrounds, but they bring a bit of, roughness
Mhm.
to the table and a lack of experience being a woman. Not 100% of the time, but quite often. You're gonna learn how to kill people, you're gonna learn how to detain people, and like I don't want to know how to kill people or detain people. You know what I mean? I want to like what do I need this for? That's
Right.
great. I'll go to prison. You know? Like
Yeah. Well,
Carrie,
and
who are,
one of the things I think Melissa can attest to, and you, is that when you have kids and they're little and they're like you're holding them or you have a stroller or something like that, you feel much more vulnerable to something happening to you. Especially, I don't know, I had some like at night, you're alone, you have a stroller, and you're like, okay, if someone were to come behind me, I don't have a mace on me, I have a set of keys right now, you know? And so then your mind starts wandering to these terrible things. So I assume that Mama Bear course would kind of put you in a position to help you feel better about these vulnerable situations and make you not feel so vulnerable.
So I have two options for that. And, every mom deserves to be prepared to keep her kids safe. That is just what it is. So there is what we call the Mama Bear membership, and I have videos. I have videos on how to use everything in self-defense. All of it. And what you're doing is you're just planting seeds. You're just putting information in there that you never have to think about or worry again. I don't carry a mug because I expect to hit somebody with it, but I'll tell you, I have intentionally picked out my mug, so if I have to hit somebody with it, I'm taking it with me. You know, so there's like that's in a membership. There's tons and tons of videos like that. Or I have what we call the Mama Bear Prepared Program, and you'll get walked through all of that and get support. Um, and that includes picking out, how you're like this. Do I want a stroller? Do I want a carrier? It's like the pros and cons of everything because despite what is out there in my world and in my industry, there is not a one size fits all solution. There's not. It doesn't work that way. Just because it works for them doesn't mean it's comfortable or fitting for you. So it's just everything is presented with a very simple pros and cons. Here's the benefits of this, here's the concerns, so that you can understand what you bring to the table and understand where the risks are and how to make up for that. So, again, from a stroller, getting in and out of the car, where you park, all of it. That's all in that program. Like I said, you're walked through all of these choices, all of these decisions, and that's including raising your kids with this skill set that makes them difficult to target and harm.
Carrie, who are the moms? What are their ages? We say moms, but are we talking every age, grandparents too, or a newbie mom? Like, who are you working with?
So I mostly work with moms with kids like 8 and under, mostly, but that's not everybody because all of this is incredibly valuable. I have grandmas, I work with aunties, I work with, it's for anybody. We say like anybody who identifies as a mama bear, like you deserve to be prepared. I'll give you what you need to be the most confident version of yourself, and you don't have to go do crazy training or something. You can just scroll on your phone and those couple minutes while you're waiting in line to pick up your child from school.
Hmm, that'd be useful. Tell us about some of the like testimonials of mama bears you've worked with that, may have had a success story, I guess, if you want to call it that.
Some of these are incredibly empowering and awesome, and some of them are just downright scary. I had someone in the last year, it was actually, gosh, she had to be like 12 years old. She thwarted a kidnapping. Somebody went to kidnap a child and she ran in and punched this guy in the face and grabbed a kid and saved a kid from kidnapping just because she's aware of what she's good at and what she's not. She knows what she can bring to the table. She knows what, just that empowerment of just she's a little girl. You have
Mm.
stories of moms, and again, some of these are just downright terrible. I have too many, too many stories of moms that start to take this and they realize that their child is being abused. It's stuff
Mm.
that it's so hard to look at. We can't stomach it. When you don't know what to do, you just can't look at it and you just can't stomach it. So, fortunate or unfortunate, however you want to look at it, I have the privilege of supporting moms coming to the realization that their children are not safe today and coming up with steps to change it. So it's not a life story, it's just moments instead of a lifetime. Um, we have stories of moms. I help moms like look into schools and choosing the right school. I can't even tell you how many times I am coaching a mom and she does background checks and finds out that people who are working with kids and it's, like martial arts studios, for example, a lot of people who dedicate decades to martial arts, it's because they have a history of trauma. Whether or not they get that addressed, unfortunately, like cycles are, there's patterns and cycles that go on inside of a dojo. The things that we do to keep our kids safe, we're just doing our best. We're just doing our best. And that's why, like, you ask for stories and like, oh man, they're so terrible. They're
Mm.
so, they're so terrible. And I don't,
Well, let me ask you this. Would taking one of your courses or working with you, would I walk into a store? Could you say I would walk into a store and look at my surroundings differently after taking something like this? Because I feel like I would. And
Yes. After you take something like the Mama Bear stuff online, you will happily go to Target. You will enjoy your latte and you will enjoy your time in there without a care in the world because you've already sized it up. You know the deal. You're not worried. You know that you can handle. You'll mess somebody up with your cart if you have to. You're not worried. You're not worried. If your kids want to go check out the new game and you can say, yes, find me in this aisle because they're
Mhm.
inside of a store with video. And it doesn't mean bad things can't happen in there. It's just not as likely as
Sure.
people think. And again, we live in prevention. When you live in prevention, you know where you're shopping, you know all this, you know. You've already done the work beforehand, so you can just enjoy your life. Like I said, enjoy your latte. Go buy a bunch of stuff you don't need. Have a ball. Have a ball at Target.
Shop and enjoy. And that's all us moms want. That's all we want.
Bring
Yeah.
Like, and it's so sad. It's like we can't even read a label because we're just in terror. It's like if there's a creepy guy, there's a creepy guy. There's actions that we take, and not only like I said, like we're willing and ready to do this stuff for our kids, but when we take that action to protect our children, we make Target more safe. The entire Target, every person in Target is more safe because we just took a small amount of strategic action.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we are actually out of time. So I want to thank you, Carrie, for coming on the show and filling us in on beating disaster and how we can gain our power back as women and our children and feel safety. If you have an idea for a parenting show topic or a guest, talk to us at ctn@a2gov.org.
For more on our programming and services, visit a2gov.org/CTN and visit youtube.com/CTN Ann Arbor to watch a full lineup. And remember to like, subscribe, and to share. And thank you for joining us on this adventure in parenthood.